policy. I put in a Freedom of Information request to get the Ontario Public Services procurement policy. I did that because they have access to resources that we don't have to continually improve their policies to meet the needs of modern government while being transparent and accountable to the citizens of Ontario. And so I'm proposing that we use that as a benchmark. We're probably not going to follow everything. There'll be things that don't apply, but if we can meet that modern policy and level of accountability and transparency, I think it would be a benefit to our community. Also, the provincial policy is scrutinized by organizations like the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. We need to consider their feedback that they give to the Ontario Public Service procurement policy in regards to our town's purchasing needs, because they're looking at things that the province could be doing to be even better. So why not consider that as well? Again, while ensuring our transparency and our accountability and our need to meet the Municipal Act to ensure accountability and transparency of operations of the municipality and to maintain the financial integrity of the municipality. I also have a couple other little things that I would like to include. One is that the policy needs to include the process that we do before council meetings of approving checks, so that we can link the policy and that process, so that we can see, for example, that if 3 quotes were taken, or if there was a tender request for proposal, that we can see that when we're approving checks to see that proper purchasing practices have been followed. I also suggest, from when I was at NOMA conference last spring, there's a lot of talk about a canoe procurement organization that's set up, that they do advance getting quotes, getting the best value for towns, and they provide the service to a number of municipalities. I hope that we could look into that. I'm not saying whether they're good or not. I'd just like to understand that this would be really good for our community, or no, it would not be good for our community. So that's
okay. So maybe what we could do, if council is in agreement, is sort of set up an ad hoc committee of 2 council members and maybe a staff person to sort of go through and go through the procurement policy. And it's not going to be an ongoing thing, maybe just 1 or 2 meetings, something like that. Councillor Second.
I'd like to add to that I had heard the suggestion that there are municipal consultants out there who have expertise in municipal purchasing and have a greater idea of what's being done in other communities. I would feel much better if the group was either led by, or whether that person could provide some resources that our committee could be reviewing.
Okay. All right. So 2 councillors and a staff member, and possibly led by one of the, like a consultant from that has expertise in that field. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we'll direct staff to set that up then, and talk to you after, Linda, about potentially like who to contact that would be appropriate to consult on something like that. I don't think they'd have to be here physically or anything, just, on, Zoom or something like that, but that can be looked into for sure. Okay. Thank you. For a Public Works Committee minutes of November 14th, 2023. And there are 2 recommendations. First of all, is there any discussion points at all in the minutes for anybody? Okay, so resolution number 280-2023, moved by Councillor Westhaver, seconded by Councillor McKenzie, that the minutes of the Nipissing Public Works Committee on November 14th, 2023 are hereby accepted with recommendations A and B approved. Recommendations are: A, PwC recommends to council that council approves 2023-1003 letter to PwC landfill window stickers Approve new landfill access cards to access and use the Township of Nipigon landfill. Each landfill access card will be valid for 2 years and will need to be accompanied by a valid driver's license that matches the address on the card. So instead of stickers,
Yeah.
it was cards because people can move them
Yeah.
between vehicles, right? Because many households don't have. Counselor Hart.
The next line there, the driver's license that matches the address. If you're a new person just moving here, you're not gonna have a driver's license.
Yeah, I think that would probably be an exception because I
Yeah.
think you have to get a new driver's license within a couple months and moving, right? So,
Well, usually you gotta get it 6 months or something.
yeah,
That's just when there's more stuff going to the landfill.
Yeah, a lot of
From
people did,
personal experience.
lots of people didn't like the idea, right, for stickers on their vehicle. And
and there's no cost to that. They come and pick it up or how, like, is
Yeah.
that being worked out, like how they
Still
would get
being
it?
worked out,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, but there's no cost to that. It's just to make sure that people who are using the landfill site are residents of Nipigon.
Right.
Or, Lake Helen, so I think we have an agreement with them too. Okay, the second recommendation B, PWC recommends to council that council approves 2023-11-02 2024 or annual report request for proposals. One RFQ 2024-01 gravel, 2 RFQ 2024-02 annual equipment rental, 3 RFQ 2024-03 annual safety inspection, 4 RFQ 2024-04 annual landfill cover, 5 RFQ 2024-05 concrete curb, gutter and sidewalk replacement, 6 RFQ 2024-06 annual pulverize and pave, 7 RFQ 2024-07 trail maintenance contractor, 8 RFQ 2024-08 push landfill. Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed and carried. Okay, Recreation Committee minutes of October 30th, 2023. And there is a recommendation there as well. Is there any discussion on these minutes? We have Kristen Dutil here, the Recreation and Culture Manager, if anyone has any questions for her on any of these items. Okay. So this is 281-2023, moved by Councillor Westhaver, seconded by Councillor Hart, that the minutes of the Recreation Committee of October 30th, 2023 are hereby adopted. And the recommendation to keep Ryan Traintinger's rental fee of $25 per month for the vending machine from October 2023 to March 2024, and to be revisited at the end of March 2024 be approved. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay, moving on down. Bylaw. Off-road vehicle session, so this is just for information for anyone who's interested in looking at the package online and the public. And for council members as well that maybe weren't at the ORV information session. Any questions or discussion? And we'll be setting up a committee in the new year to look at some sort of plan to see what we can hash out. Taking all this input into consideration. So I just want to thank everyone who came out and everyone who filled out a questionnaire, because it's very helpful for everyone involved. Okay, minutes of the EDC committee of November 8, 2023. This is resolution 282.
I believe this was noise by a lot.
Oh, sorry. I'm just going by the resolutions. Sorry, Dennis. Okay.
That's whole speech.
Yeah, he had a whole speech. So our bylaw officer, Dennis DeChico, just has some information. Just to get people up to speed, there were some recommendations to align our noise bylaw with Red Rocks, right, Dennis, I believe? And so I didn't realize that when we had sort of passed that, and before I signed off on the bylaw, Dennis approached me and said he didn't have any input into that. So I just asked him to come and have his input here tonight. on that, bylaw change. Go ahead, Dennis.
Okay, I'll make it short. I did have some recommendations. I went through the pack. So bylaw 1365 in part speaks to no person shall within the township of Nipigon ring any bell, blowing horn, shout, or make any unusual noise or any noise likely to disturb the inhabitants township. So this revised version, which is based on Red Rocks, is more detailed, but I don't think it's entirely necessary because I do think Nipigon's wording is actually complete. If we jump to the Ontario Offence Act, excessive noise starts at 2300 or 11 p.m. Which is different than, which is the same as what we have now, but in the revised, it does say 24 hours. But under the Ontario Offence Act, OPP can issue charges for any noise 24/7, so nothing has changed in that, stating that I feel like Nipigon's is complete. It still holds true, in my opinion. As far as noise complaints, going back into the archives as far as 2019, so we're going on almost 5 years, 4+ years. There's only been one, and it has been recently. I think it was in September. But I feel if we adopt the current one as it's written, it may result in more complaints that would be difficult to enforce. Police will then say it's a bylaw matter, when in fact they have the authority and the ability to enforce it. And most importantly, it'll reduce conversations between neighbors, which I think is essential. If we change it to the 24/7 around the clock version, things may be affected, like the Blue Blast Afternoon Festival, Fall Fishing Festival, dance, and any shags, etc. happening at the Legion. Conversations, understanding, and respect has worked significant for a long time and seems to be working for the most part. So let's not fix what isn't broken. So the only recommendation I would say is to keep the noise bylaw as it stands, and no other issues in the rest of the package. That's it.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or?
Do we have a summary of that we can actually look at?
Summary.
Yeah, like what you're proposing, like this first I've heard.
Well, he's just proposing not to make a change at all,
Not make
just to
any
leave it the way it is.
Right.
And then the 24, the OPP, from what I understand, from what you're telling us, has the authority to, let's say if someone was, let's say there was like a really loud dog barking outside your door, like six at night, right? It doesn't quite, it's not at 11 o'clock, but it's, for hours. That would be, correct me if I'm wrong, but you would call the OPP about
Yeah.
that and they would be able to enforce it. It's more enforceable from what you're saying, if we
sure.
leave it the way it is, than if we, because you're on 10 hours to whatever a week, right? So they're more responsive to that,
And
to
have the
calls.
ability to enforce it for sure.
Right.
But it's not only between 2300, which is 11 p.m. to the morning. It is 24/7.
For the OPP.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, what about early morning dog barking, something like that?
Same thing.
Same thing.
24 hours.
24, the police are gonna come to somebody that's dogs barking in the morning.
That's a call, yeah.
And I'm up early every morning and
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
lots of dogs that are barking.
Yeah,
But people might not be calling
Yeah.
on them, that's the.
but I feel the change from what we have now to the existing one, police will direct every single complaint to
Yeah.
bylaw,
Yeah.
which
Oh, I see.
they're already doing, to some degree, but it's hard rule for 11 p.m. There's no question they will show up and
Yeah,
do something, but they do have the authority for 24/7, so we don't need to change our 11 p.m. to the morning to 24. It's complete as far as I'm concerned. It covers everything.
Counselor Westhaver?
so just to be clear, we're not gonna have a 24-hour silence in town. But if there is an issue between 11 p.m. in the morning then you will be called to those,
OPP,
OPP, and during the day,
either.
either or?
Either.
Okay,
Councilor McKenzie?
Okay, so just further on my example, so if there's a neighbor that's complaining about a dog barking in the morning, they are to call you,
I suppose either,
sorry?
either. Sometimes they'll call both, sometimes.
Well, I want to be clear though,
Yeah.
will a resident of Nipigon, if they have a dog barking constantly in the morning, are they gonna call you?
I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, that's the problem then.
I would recommend that calling the OPP, because when you have a noise, right, that's,
It's ongoing.
you
now.
need a response to that pretty quick, and, as I said, Dennis is part-time, limited hours a week, and if you want something happening, then that will, sorry, Counselor Hart, how to send it?
The wording for sounds, I was under the impression that the original, the one that's in place now is very specific in sounds, not a general sound. Like the ones that are driving around with no tailpipe set, like. Or say quads racing up and down
Yeah.
a certain street
Yeah.
at 11 o'clock at night.
I still feel the Nipigon one is worded. There's no need to go into more detail, the revised one, let's say for music, for instance, it said electronic noises.
Yeah.
Emanating from, and they describe a speaker, I think that's all unnecessary.
That is.
I think the wording in the Nipigon one is complete, it couldn't be more complete.
Counselor McKenzie?
Sorry, I gotta keep on with my example there.
Yeah.
So if a citizen of Nipigon, can they not contact you so that you would send a letter
Yes,
to the resident, asking them to have their dog, you know, restrained, that, you know,
both
and
said
that type of thing?
yes,
I just wanna make sure that, you know, I don't wanna put everything on the OPP either, cause you know what, they're not gonna come at 6 o'clock in the morning when the dog's barking. But if they get a letter from you stating that, you know, it's an issue and, you know, you can follow up on it, then I think that would make me feel a lot more comfortable with what you're proposing.
I think that's why my answer was either, they can call either for it. I mean, every scenario is different, right, but.
And I mean, if you're comfortable with approaching, I know some people are afraid to approach certain houses or certain people, but if you're comfortable approaching the person, friendly neighbor, maybe they just don't know and, excuse me, could you, you know, we have a problem or
It's just,
something.
I've been attacked by dogs in the morning, you know, early morning,
Mm,
big dogs too. And in my example, I was going to contact the police and contact the township, but that particular family happened to be moving the next day, so I didn't bother. Okay, thanks, Dennis.
So are we okay to accept Dennis's recommendation then to just keep our bylaw the way it is?
Yeah.
And then maybe we can have some education, because Counselor McKenzie is confused about who to call, so that is an indication that other people are probably confused about who to call.
And that's information that should be like freely available front and center on websites and stuff like that as well.
Thank you. EDC, sorry, now we're going on to the EDC. This is EDC minutes of November the 8th. And I don't believe there are any recommendations because there was no quorum. Or there may not have been any recommendations anyways. Does anyone have any, Councilor McKenzie?
Yeah, I just would like to thank Linda Harbison for her long and continuous service on the Economic Development Committee there. And actually, I'm very sad to see her go because she's a wealth of information and a wealth of knowledge there. So I'd just like to acknowledge that.
Okay, so that's resolution 282-2023, moved by Councillor Westhaver, seconded by Councillor Hart, that the minutes of the EDC committee of November 8, 2023 are hereby adopted. All in favor? Opposed and carried. And 7B, municipal accommodation tax implementation. there's a resolution here, but I'm not sure if there was supposed to, be, but I'm gonna step out anyway. But just say that there's no.
Yep.
discussion.
Not, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm surprised that this was on the agenda because I thought we had discussed this at length at our last council meeting. And from the impression that I got, it was a little bit premature to make any move on this. That we were waiting for a committee to be formed and then have results coming from
Yeah.
that committee.
That's what I was understanding too, so I was surprised also. Do you have any idea what the accommodation tasks are about? Dan, no way. It's,
I don't know, I wasn't asked to be here today to speak to it,
no,
but we formulated a committee, we
Right.
held the consultation.
right,
The report from the consultation came back to council, it was discussed by council at your last committee meeting. And it's on the agenda today.
yeah. Go ahead, Glenn.
It was put back on the agenda as my request, because I think that if we want to implement this, you're looking at a January first start
Mhm.
to get the ball rolling on it. To form a committee and stuff, we need actually that step to form the committee to whatever. I would rather put it to a vote now and see where it falls. To start doing the MAT tax starting January 2024.
Or maybe you could explain to everybody exactly what it is, what it implies to the businesses in town.
Well, the MAT tax is not a tax, but it's a gratuity or whatnot charged to travelers very specifically at hotels. It's usually 4%, which is what I would recommend for a percentage wise. But what it does is it actually is a method for that the Ontario government's given to municipalities. All the money, a lot of the money they've clawed back and offset services back into the municipals. Like economic development, stuff like that, promotions and such. That's a way of recouping that, some of that money or creating more of that money to put towards those programs, especially for smaller communities where they don't have the regular budget to do something like that. 50% of that goes into municipal, 50% goes to a arm's length nonprofit. And you form committees to figure out and how to dispense the taxation money that comes from it. It's only money that comes from outside the community. It's not generated from the hotels or anything, not generated as a cost to the hotels. It's basically they collect it and they submit it to the township. And they're also heavily involved in figuring out where the money should go, especially the 50% that goes to tourism, promotion and whatnot.
Go ahead, Kathy.
So Glenn, as the council rep on the committee that was formed to get public input, what would you recommend to council? How would you recommend that we proceed?
I recommend that we proceed and implement the tax starting January 1st at a 4% rate, putting Superior Country in charge of putting together the expenditure committee and such.
And any other conditions that would help make that?
Well, the other conditions that, like we've talked to the hotels and stuff is like, number one would be the township of Nipigon to absorb the costs of any upgrades to the software that they, or training that hotels might need to add that 4% into their system or whatever we want. As well, I would personally like to see a committee formed for the Nipigon portion of the thing, of the collection. a certain percentage of it be devoted specifically to a fund, either reserve fund or another specialized fund, to be collected and put forward towards potentially in the future, putting water sewage to the highway.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was at the meeting with the motel owners, and there wasn't a motel owner that was agreeable to that particular tax that was there. They did tell us that most of their people that attend motels are transient people at this particular time. There was some discussion that they might be open to it in the future, should that kind of transient, visitor change because of something, for example, like Parks Canada puts a discovery center here. So people are gonna be maybe wanting to stay longer as opposed to just an overnight. So myself, I'm at this particular point in time, I think it's a little bit premature to be pushing that. I would suggest that we talk a little bit more with the motel owners and get them more on board.
Some of the, oh, go ahead.
You go ahead first.
Well, I have concerns that just increases another cost to people that are traveling.
I've looked into this for years, really. And what it is, it's price elasticity of hotel rates itself. People are gonna pay it no matter what. And that, yeah, I believe that the higher end of that is like up to 8%. They're not even gonna,
Does
there
Thunder Bay,
might,
does Thunder Bay do that?
yes, and so does Steers
They
Bay.
do?
Most communities in Ontario and North America charge.
That 4%?
Four, or some of them are higher, some of them are lower. Thunder Bay generates about $1 million a year, I think, something like that. They used a lot of their expenditure for trails because the community side of it, their 50% would go towards infrastructure, stuff like that, to create a better experience for quote unquote travelers, and by travelers, extension to people of Michigan itself. So it's not just one.
Go ahead, Kat.
My thoughts, and again, I was at the meeting with the motel owners that showed up, and not every motel owner showed up, obviously the ones that were really concerned about it. One of the questions, and I never thought to ask during the meeting, but I asked afterwards, because Terrace Bay is fairly new at doing this. And so Terrace Bay was the example that it's been 2 or 3 years and things are just starting to get implemented, so they can't see the benefits of it. But I asked a question, so since for 3 years people have been paying the MAT tax, has that reduced the number of people that are staying in their motels? Like, is there a detrimental effect when the benefits haven't even started yet? And from what I was told, no, it hasn't affected the number of people staying. So if it doesn't affect their business that way, so their income coming in, right now, again, our town doesn't have a lot of industry. They are our major industry. These people on the highway, we have very little tax money to help them grow. But this would help us, as Glenn was recommending, that we help cover the cost to get them through the software side to get this going. And if we can put, so Superior Country would be forming a committee to help with the tourism side to benefit them. If we can make some commitment on the side of the town to focus the money that we're collecting to put towards sewer and water, which was mentioned at the meeting, that one of the businesses it would be a benefit to them. Sometimes their wells run dry and they can't make any money because they don't have water. If we could get sewer and water to these people, then all of a sudden properties, motels could grow. There have been hotel businesses looking at highway property, but without sewer and water, they won't build. If the town could commit the money that we're saving to help use that against applying for funding to get more money for sewer and water, I think the town and the businesses on the highway would really benefit. So I support the MAT tax for the reasons that Glenn was saying.
Okay, something else. Oh, Linda's.
I would just like to say that, the cost to run the water and sewer up to the highway would be like,
We
it's
know.
a lot. So I mean, realistically, if you were putting that money away and even without it funding, you still could be looking 20 years down the road. And then the other issue is too, at this point, we really don't even know if our water plant will be able to pay that. That would be another expense, so just, yeah.
The other thing to remember too is it's not just the straight. Are the hotels doing worse or better at a flat line? The thing is, you have a good chunk of this money is going to promotion to bring people to those hotels. That's the thing. Without that, there's no promotion going to those hotels, so you're just stagnant. With this, you're taking a good percentage of that, you're drawing more people into the community itself. By extension, the hotels, because let's be honest, at a money standpoint, we want those hotels, more people to come to them. Because every extra person that comes to those hotels generates a little bit more in mat tax, but also generates more income for the people and businesses of Nipmuc itself. So,
You said 50% went to the fund for futures, whatever sewer water.
well, no,
But
not
whatever.
50%. The percentages are worked out. 50% goes to the municipal coffers.
Right,
We can dictate where that goes.
okay.
We're recommending.
I wouldn't recommend the whole 50%. But yeah, that's next step. The other 50% has to go to an arm's length, non-for-profit, i.e. Superior Country kind of, like, unless we want to form our own, which if we can take advantage of somebody that already, an organization that already has the infrastructure, contacts and stuff available, then we're basically, the mat tax is basically generating an economic development office for Nipmuc itself.
Dan?
I can elaborate on some of the items. Counselor, you weren't present at the last meeting, I'm aware, so you missed that report. And it detailed answers to a lot of the questions that are coming up tonight. Specifically, one of the questions that you asked about impeding on the revenues of a property because of the increase in taxes. I get the hotel reports from across the province as your nonprofit destination marketing organization. The townships and municipalities that have implemented the municipal accommodation tax have not seen a drop in revenues. They had seen a drop in revenues due to the pandemic, but just this morning I received an email the month of September. This month has hit pre-pandemic levels for the first time since the pandemic hit. So the MAT is implemented like Councillor Hart had said in the majority of cities and municipalities across North America and in Europe, in many different ways. The 50% in getting towards the committees and the percentages, if a municipality collects the municipal accommodation tax, 50% needs to go to arm's length non-profit organization. That organization then controls that 50%, is not controlled by council, hence why it needs to be arm's length. What Superior Country does for the communities that work with us, we develop a committee within the community, right, to oversee that 50%. The other 50% goes into your coffers, controlled by council in whichever way you see that. And then to Councillor Mackenzie's point on the transient travelers, it's always transient travelers. The MAT tax can be utilized to actually increase so that they have tourism travelers and not just transient travelers, because you're not gonna get this chicken and the egg. So that's why the dollars go into that. They go into shoulder and winter promotions. Typically, the committees will decide that, creating winter events, additional hockey tournaments, additional events, merging events to bring more people into town and therefore put more heads in beds, increasing the motel's revenues. So the city of Thunder Bay has done this in extreme levels because of the ability, the amount that they're able to collect. They have done it to bring in big sporting events. They have done it to make packages between Magnus theaters and hotels and things of that nature. So there's all kinds of things that can be done to increase heads and beds in this.
I don't know who was first.
I use a tie.
You know, I would support this tax if the motel owners were on board, but you know what? Motel owners are not on board right now. Until they are, I think you're just asking for trouble. And I think Glenn has always talked about an education pieces. I think if our motel owners are on board, they feel confident that this is gonna work as you suggest, then I would support it. But right now, I didn't hear one motel owner support that at the meeting. Plus, the ones that were away had verbally given their notice to the other people that were in that room, representing them. So pretty well all the motels were there, and we haven't got support from them. And until we do, we have to do a good selling job. I don't want this to be seen as being rammed down their throats. And you're gonna get a lot of blowback and a lot of negative stuff. So if we can make this a positive thing and turn it around and say, okay, like Dan has explained how, and the other members of council have explained that how positive this can be. If you can convince the motel owners, then I'm good with it. I'm fine with it.
The problem with that is that never happens.
And
But yet, when, after you've collected the mat tax, the hotel owners don't try to get rid of it. So,
I can't speak for our motel owners. Let them
Oh, I
speak
know.
for themselves,
I know,
you know?
I'm just saying, like, in general. Hotel owners don't ask for it. And like, the mat tax itself is for. We're putting heads in beds, which is their bottom line. So. Without that, it's an egg and chicken.
in other communities, has it just been told, like the council tells them that you're going to do this? Or is that as like?
In no community where the municipal accommodation tax has been implemented that I have spoken to, where the motel's on board with it at any time. The only case, former council in Nipigon seemed to think that that's what happened in Thunder Bay. But I know when it was attached to your letter, some information on that from the tourism manager of Thunder Bay. From my understanding, and I was at one of the hotel association meetings, the hotel association knew it was gonna come and that that Thunder Bay was going to implement it regardless. So they jumped on board with it, not to give their support of it, but to have control over it. So now they actually have people sitting on the committees that dictate the dollars. But in Terrace Bay, no motel came forward and said, please charge us this tax. They never have, even in the city of Grand Marais, which we are often referred to, and everybody always says, oh, we need to be the next Grand Marais. The counties in the US, for the most part, are funded by a municipal accommodation tax structure. It was so successful in Grand Marais after just utilizing the hotels that the municipality actually made it voluntary to other businesses to contribute to. So like Lutzen Ski Hill, for example, charges a percentage that then goes into the county coffers as well. So they have a seat at the table. But yeah, the short answer to your question is no. You never see the motels come forward and state that they're for it. I haven't seen it myself personally.
Even if 50% were to say, yes, you know, that would be something. That would show some movement.
My only comment was, kind of related to what Linda was saying. Right now, we've had, some of the businesses willing to put in money for sewer and water. But we don't have anything to negotiate with. It looks like the provincial government is setting up some pot for infrastructure, but it's only a portion, and again, they're looking for other people to put in some money. And right now, we don't have anything unless we're taking from a reserve or capital or operating budget. So this would give us a bit of negotiating money.
The negotiating money too is when you look at when that divided highway comes through Nipigon, which again is us talking to municipal and Ontario government, provincial government, federal government, is when that goes in there, and if we have some funding available to leverage, then the cost of putting that in is pennies on the dollar. And you're talking about 5, 6, 7 years. So that is a time frame that's quote unquote realistic, in my opinion.
Unfortunately, though, we still don't have an actual real picture of where the highway.
I know, this is where negotiation goes, like, over the next. And in order for, like, something like this and negotiating with, knowing that we would have the money sitting there, or at least generating a small percentage or whatnot, then we can actually start talking to our MPs and such, and this is where those decisions are gonna be made. It's not gonna be MTO, it's gonna be some premier somewhere saying, oh, we've heard about this project in Nipigon, or something like that, and there's a photo op, and that's where we would like it to go. So you're directing that. And it's in our best interest, it's in our highway's best interest, it's had the potential for that highway. It's always been large and never fully realized, because without water sewage up there, we're getting like a little ahead of ourselves and stuff, yes, but there is a potential window and timeline there that we could put something towards. Part of that, like I said, having a MAT tax, we have a reserve fund, we have other potential money generating methods. But the big thing is to show the hotel owners that we're trying to do these things for them. We want them to grow and expand. When you said, okay, well, our transient, well, we don't want you having transient, we want you to have regular tourism related people. When I was, one of the places that the hotels up there on the highway, when I was at the Tourist Information Center, I kept records. I put 84 people in her hotel. That's approximately $9,000 in 2 months. So that's one hotel out of all of them, which I would basically go down the line from the hotels when they would call or stop in and ask for hotels. Those are the ones that I know of. There's all for one hotel. And that person actually wrote a letter and basically saying that they never got any tourist related income. And my goal has always been to have people here 2, 3, 4, 5 days. When I have bait shop, tackle, stuff like that, my websites, people call looking for places to stay. I don't recommend men going out middle of nowhere to some expensive resort. I'm like, no, stay right in town. Here's your hotel list. Stuff like that. That's what we can do as a municipality. We can say, no, you can stay right here. And you have world-class fishing all around you. You have world-class hunting all around you. You have semi-world-class ATV and trailing. You have world-class trails. Like, that's the thing we have here. We want to bring the people in. All this stuff works and gels and is better for the hotels. And by better for the hotels, if we end up going with the water sewage to the highway, that's great. That solves a lot of other issues. But even without that, it generates more people coming into the community itself to generate more income for the people, the businesses, the hotels of Nipissing.
So let me get this straight, maybe everybody else might be wondering, so you have on the bill that the customer gets when he goes to leave, he gets PST, GST and 4% on whatever the minimum cost as an extra charge on the bill.
Yeah.
And then it's up to the hotel owner to submit that 4%
Yeah.
to the township.
Yeah.
And then the township divides it.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where paying for. Because one of the things that came up is like, well, we're accounting and this and that. It's like, so basically to set up their software, there might be a small fee to add another taxation line. So when they're putting in their tax, that number is automatically generated and once a month or quarterly or once a year, whatever is decided for the collection range, that gets divvied out, same thing as GST. Exact same thing. That it doesn't go to the federal government or the provincial government, it goes to Nippigan and the people of Nippigan.
People. Yeah. You're in charge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, it was sad, I did miss the Justin, the meeting last time. So I had to get up to speed here, but,
Yeah.
Do we have a motion for acceptance of?
Well, it's also up to you, because if you don't have enough knowledge and you want some more knowledge, then, you know, we'll defer it for next meeting or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I forgot to do it.
Well, I think I'm up in the air being chair, maybe it will just be the three of yous for quorum.
Well, I think you can vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so do we have everybody in agreement to implement a tax?
We have to have a mover and a seconder for the resolution.
We had, I think that was myself and Kathy,
No, there's not one,
was hers.
Linda's gonna do one up there.
Yeah, I don't even know where it went.
I didn't have a resolution for
Okay.
this.
You're gonna write it up?
So you want to, approve implementation.
We'll have it, we'll,
proposal to implement.
yeah, we'll just do that, just write it up and then we'll do it. Putting up on the computer, is that a big deal?
It's a line, most software actually has the capability of.
Move it as the mini.
The software, usually the software hasn't built right in, especially if they're using Hotelier software, because
Would you-
it's so common. It's just-
Okay, would you be able to help those that need that?
Yeah, or they could submit a cost to. That's the thing.
You could move it or could move by yourself then and.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll move that.
Okay, we have a resolution that council proposes to implement the map tax. All in agreement?
You need a seconder.
Seconder.
Yeah, Kathy was gonna second it.
Should we put a date on
The number.
it? January first.
We don't have a number, right? Or are you just gonna follow the sequence?
It will be 283.
283?
Just ask, just
283?
You have to ask.
I asked Dan how the procedure goes.
Okay.
What you might wanna do is if you are implementing it, if it were to pass and you want Superior Country or another not-for-profit, you might wanna put in the motion what you're doing in that front, because your staff won't be able to start negotiating with me or another not-for-profit unless it's in your resolution, right? So if you were to implement if you were to implement the collection of the municipal accommodation tax, you should also outline how you're going to arrange the other 50%. And then that would allow us to begin figuring things out.
That's what you were gonna write in the.
Yeah.
But that should be properly procured. So, we have one entity here. There are other entities that could actually do that, so that should go to a procurement process.
Yeah,
Which other entities?
yeah, we can't just decide.
We just can't,
But who are the other?
There are no who's the other?
How do we know?
available?
I'd rather.
Procurement,
way
that's
more
gonna end up
comfortable
to be
having it go
50%
through
of
tenders.
good chunk of money, so, yeah, there should be a vote. Not just for Superior Country, but anybody else that's
Yeah,
in that
I don't know
building.
if there's anybody in that business center area, because Superior Country provides all those services already to us.
I could be mistaken, but you're also not hiring Superior.
no, we're not. It's not a hiring thing, it's just somebody to oversee it,
But that should
and they,
go to tender,
Yeah.
sorry, Glenn,
Yeah.
we've been sitting here, we just heard from,
I think.
Counselor
I think you need to
Sakamoto,
look at the
procurement
wording of
policy.
the actual thing.
you know,
But I
And
don't know
they're-
if this is a,
sure, they're
Necessarily.
contacting an outside contractor to facilitate township funds that are coming in.
I'm
How's
not
that
gonna
not a-
argue.
Yeah, like you. If we're gonna do a procurement thing properly, then anybody else besides them. Should have a kick it, it should go before
They can't.
council of who's gonna operate that 50%. Correct?
Be interesting to see how it gets written up and who could actually bid on it besides Superior.
You have to be a nonprofit and a
Yeah.
destination marketing organization.
And in Ontario, they.
Maybe
are
Thunder Bay will do it for us.
Maybe we don't have the right information. Maybe we don't then approve it at this meeting. Because it doesn't sound like we're,
I would recommend that we defer to the next meeting until we can,
Defer it for the next meeting.
until we have everybody in place.
because I think this is different than a regular procurement.
Okay, just
Because
recommend.
there's provincial guidelines on who can do it. Like very, very specific. We could form our own.
We just cancel.
There you go. Good.
Defer
Do you want to declare conflict of interest? We put in it.
this part, yes, probably.
You can implement the MAT and then decide who to hire. at
Yeah.
another meeting.
For 50%, right? Okay, can implement that the MAT tax goal, but the 50%, to be determined by
Look at,
procurement.
look at the potential. Word I'm looking for.
Look at the procurement policy for,
It doesn't fall under state procurement, that's the problem. It's not a procurement.
when
You're not buying a goods or a service. There are very specific guidelines in the law
which we don't know.
from the provincial
So
government.
we need
That's
to
what I
get that
mean, we have to get that.
We need to get that information.
Perhaps we should listen to our deputy clerk that she said maybe
Yeah,
we should
yeah,
defer
for
Yeah.
sure.
till we get all the correct information.
Yeah, she had her hand up, she's next.
Yeah.
But that was my recommendation.
That was your recommendation, okay, that's what I said too, so we're gonna recommend that we defer,
Okay.
okay? All in favor?
All in favor of deferring?
Deferring. That's carried. You better move that right now, don't you? It's two M's, we need another M in there.
Nippigan Fire Department, minutes
Just
of
go right in
November
up.
1st, yeah, down to business, 8B. Is there any discussion on the fire department minutes? I believe there, yeah, go ahead.
Just to welcome our new deputy fire chief, Lisa there.
Okay. Oh, yes, because it looks like Ian stepped down. Cleveland took over that position, wonderful. Okay, so this is, what resolution number are we on?
That we just.
Did one at 283?
That's, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it's
283.
284.
Yeah.
Resolution number 284-2023, moved by Counselor.
Actually, that was deferred, correct? You didn't vote on the resolution?
Yeah, we voted to.
No,
defer.
there's no vote. If you defer it, there's no vote.
Yes, so this is 283.
Oh, okay. 283-2023, moved by Counselor Westhaver, seconded by Counselor Sakamoto, that the minutes of the Nipissing Fire Department on November 1st, 2023 are hereby accepted. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Public library, for library board resignation. Oh, sorry, there's a fire department, another fire department here. We have to approve, Alex Gleason, so there's another, sorry, guys. Resolution 284-2023, moved by Counselor Hart, seconded by Counselor Westhaver, that this council hereby approves the Nipissing Volunteer Fire Department's motion for firefighter Alex Gleason to fill the Nipissing Volunteer Fire Department Deputy Chief position. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay, Public Library Board resignation. So Zach, Gonu Cheatham has submitted his resignation as board chair due to personal reasons, so. Sad to say goodbye to Zach. He's been a valuable part of the library, board for some time, so. Disappointing. But we accept, of course. All right, moving on to 10A, Cliffside Cemetery minutes of November 16th, 2023. This is resolution 285-2023. Is there any discussion on this? Councillor McKenzie?
Yes, thanks. There was quite a bit of discussion about a new columbarium. And I know the price tag is pricey, like there's between 27,000 and 29,000 for a new columbarium. There's 64 slots there. But if you do the math, and we did it at the meeting, that will be total cost recovery for that columbarium over its lifetime. So, it's, you know, we put $50,000 up front approximately, but we'll recover all that with dues and stuff, so.
Okay, and there's no recommendations in there to approve, I don't think.
No.
All right, so resolution 285-2023, moved by Counselor Hart, seconded by Counselor Westhaver, that the minutes of the Cliffside Cemetery Committee on November 21st, 2023 are hereby accepted. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay, sundries, Thunder Bay Municipal League Board Meeting Review, so there's, this is just for information. NOMA support of Northern School of Medicine. Okay, so I think. Counselor McKenzie?
Yes, with that, with NOMA support of the Northern School of Medicine, I see the Township of Terrace Bay has issued a resolution to support that. And I was going to ask that our township also support that particular resolution. So that's for 4 million annual base funding as a permanent increase for the proposed Northern School of Medicine there. So if we even just had a simple resolution that we support Terrace Bay's resolution.
It's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Counselor McKenzie. Resolution 286-2023, moved by Counselor Hart, seconded by Counselor Westhaver, that this council hereby support the NOMA Resolution 2023-08, support for sustainable funding to Northern Ontario School of Medicine, NOSM University, to address the urgent need for health human resources in Northern Ontario.
Yeah.
All in favor? Opposed? And carried. All right. Is there any other business? We will be going into closed session, but is there any other business? We'll start. I feel like I've been going to my right a lot, so we'll start with Counselor Sakamoto.
Nope, not anything.
Okay. Counselor Westhaver,
Nothing else.
Counselor Hart,
I've had some community members expressing concerns about lighting on some of the streets, i.e. the mid-range ones, and some of them are feeling quite unsafe. It might be useful in the future to talk to Public Works about maybe looking at lighting issues.
okay, maybe, Linda, if you could put that on, to put onto the next Public Works agenda, would be good, that concern.
Okay.
Have Shane do that. Anything else, Counselor Hart?
No.
Counselor McKenzie?
Okay, yeah, just anecdotally, I've been stopping at the Edge Arts on my walk in through town, and I see it's being used quite a bit. And I'm really, really happy with that. And I was just hoping that our new coordinator there, perhaps she can take, gather some stats for us, like on a monthly basis, so we know what's happening. And even people that are visiting, maybe not doing exactly programming, but if they could do, if we can get the numbers of people that are coming into that facility. And, that'll justify, the money that we put into it. And also, if there's other grant applications, we'll have the data to support what we're asking for. So, but anyhow, just kudos to that facility, really.
So maybe, I don't know what Bernadette has set up there for taking numbers, if there's a sign-in book, or if she just does it herself on a clipboard or something like that, but yeah, that would be.
Probably keeping pretty good.
Yes, but we'll just make sure that she is doing that, because that would be helpful, keep those stats for users. For myself, I just want to thank the businesses and the township staff and organizations who participated in our last minute effort to have a little bit of a celebratory atmosphere on Nipigon Day. I know that the staff here at the township were wearing their Nipigon gear, and store in town here had a special, restaurant had a special, and I know the bank was wearing their Nipigon nylons and stuff, so really nice to see that just in sort of last minute, we can get something going. So hopefully next year, on an annual basis, we can think of different things to do there. The Legion, I just want to say thank you to the Legion members for doing a really great service there. On Remembrance Day, it was packed. I've never been to the Legion service. I usually go to the school service, and so it was, I don't know if that's normal, but there were people waiting in the hallway there in the vestibule, so it was good to see. And just a reminder to everybody that the holiday train is coming on December 1st. First and foremost, it's for collecting food for the food banks and raising money for the food banks, and entertainment, of course, is great. There's also a spaghetti supper that evening. Traditionally, that's in support of Jumpstart at the Legion. So just reminding everybody about that. And that is it. So I'm going to go to resolution 287.
On that, could I say something about
Oh.
the lady that recommended that 1117?
Sure, yeah, quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for information, I had a personal email from the girl whose daughter-in-law had picked the name for Nipigon, or the date for Nipigon Day of 1117, based on the two joining highways. And I guess it was just the mother-in-law's recommendation that her name be mentioned. I can't even, it was her daughter's in-law, so I'm not, it was
Emily?
Emily Hendricken, Joanne Hendricken and Brown.
Yeah, and the daughter-in-law's name was Emily, I think.
Yeah, and the daughter, I don't know if it's too late to backtrack and just mention her name on the.
Emily, what?
I'm not sure. It was Brown or Browser or something.
Well,
I'm
her
not really
married
sure
name
which
now
one
is
is.
Emily Brown.
Yeah, so Emily Brown, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did
I didn't see it.
recognize that. Okay, resolution number 287-2023, moved by Councillor Westhaver, seconded by Councillor Hart. That this council resolve into closed session under section 239 of the Authority of the Municipal Act 2001 to discuss personal matters about identifiable individuals, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land for municipal purposes, and labor relations or employee negotiations. All in favor?